Hell froze over, so here comes the Medicare for the Lazy Man podcast. A Medicare podcast shunned by hoarders everywhere. He parallel parks like a pro. It's Medicare expert Doug Jones.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Medicare for the Lazy Man podcast. I am your podcaster, Doug Jones. I am the guy who will lead you through the Medicare morass, and I will certainly do it in a painless, hopefully entertaining way. The goal is to ensure that you understand that Medicare is going to be a terrific opportunity for you to have superior health insurance coverage at a reasonable cost. That's always my goal, and I help people do that all around the country, everywhere in the United States. Anybody who is interested in Medicare coverage, once again, the finest available coverage in the Medicare program at a very reasonable cost. That is what I offer. Now, how do I convey this to people around the country? Well, I have written a book called Medicare for the Lazy Man, Simplest and Easiest Guide Ever. And I rewrite that book every year. So if you were to go to Amazon.com and type in Medicare for the Lazy Man 2026. You type that in the search window. 2026 is the most current edition, and you would find a copy of that book displayed on the Amazon sales page. And there are 4 versions of it that you can purchase for yourself. Most people buy the paperback version for $11, but some people prefer to buy the Kindle version because they have Kindle readers that Amazon supports, and that's only a $5 purchase. If you would like to listen to the book and have somebody read it to you so that you can just lay there and let that knowledge wash over your brain, that's going to cost you about $6 and change, I think. And if you were of the persuasion of the type of person who likes to impress their fellow citizens, then I have a version available for you that is hardcover. It's got the information about the book on the spine, like fine literary works of art have. This is suitable for a library, some sort of institution of higher learning, or any other type of highfalutin collection of knowledge that people value. And that is a $25 purchase. You know, you could even wrap that up and give it to somebody as a gift, and they would be honored to accept that from you, because once you've read the book, you have the knowledge. You don't need to retain the $25 book anymore. You can use it in any way you see fit to further people's Medicare knowledge. So that's the primary book, Medicare for the Lazy Man 2026, and that's going to help you understand Medicare in a very lighthearted, a very uncomplicated way, but yet it's thorough. It will accomplish probably 90% of all the Medicare knowledge that anybody's ever going to need. There are always going to be people with special situations that need individual counseling, but the book, Medicare for the Lazy Man, will accomplish that for most people. There are 2 other books that I think you should be aware of. One of those books is a book entitled Medicare Drug Plans, a Simple DIY Guide. This is a book that helps you use the Medicare website that the government has set up to select the best drug plan for you. And what is the best drug plan for you? That would be the cheapest available drug plan. The United States is divided up into 34 territories, and each of those has a series of drug plans available that all have different characteristics. And so what you want to do is pick the one that is best for you. That's the one that covers your drugs on your drug list at your favorite pharmacies for the lowest out-of-pocket cost available. Now, the Medicare Drug Plans DIY Guide is a kind of a workbook. You open the book and you turn on the your computer to the website, and you have the first screen on the website. You have the first page on the book. You turn the page on the book. You turn the click on the appropriate link on the screen, and you'll be taken to another screen, and you walk your way through the selection process. Once you have your selection made, then the next step is the enrollment process, and that book will guide you page by page, screen by screen, through the complete enrollment and selection and enrollment. But here's what you do: you don't throw the book away, you don't give it away, you don't sell it to anybody. You hang on to that book, because in the fall, drug plans for the following year are announced, and they'll have different parameters, they'll have different costs, they'll have different characteristics. You want to make sure that the plan you selected will renew with the characteristics that you prefer. And if not, you want to be able to select a more appropriate plan from the new ones that are available starting the first of the following year. So that book will be a useful tool for you to use every year as the drug plans go through their machinations and their changes and the various permutations that they're going to be hated for. They're already known for that, but people get frustrated when they buy a drug plan. They think they're done. The new drug plan year happens, and all of a sudden their plan is inappropriate, or it's not something that they would have purchased voluntarily. You can avoid that by doing the selection process on the government website every year with my book, Medicare Drug Plans, a simple DIY guide. And finally, the last book in the collection is entitled Medicare Enrollment Guide. This is like a pamphlet. This is a very tiny book that tells you the steps to enroll in Medicare, to acquire your Medicare supplement plan, and your Medicare drug plan. It's the pages that have actual tutorial on them probably number fewer than 20. And this book I would give away free if I could, but Amazon won't let me. They force me to charge money for it. They want $5 for the the paperback version and $3 for the Kindle version. However, I've done an end run around Amazon, and Randy Carson has created a beautiful website for Medicare for the Lazy Man. So I suggest that you go to my website, medicareforthelazyman.com, and download that book for free. You can get it into your computer, you can get it into your telephone or your iPod, your iPad, and you can read it, you can keep it, you can print it. It doesn't matter what you do with it, because it will be yours to keep. You can give it away. You can sell it. You can make money on it. You can actually make a profit by selling it to unsuspecting people that you run across. How would you like to know how to enroll in Medicare? The Medicare Enrollment Guide is yours for free if you go to my website, medicareforthelazyman.com, and download it. Click on the link, and it will be yours. Speaking of downloading and links and clicking and stuff, Randy Carson is my expert when it comes to all things technology, and I welcome him to the podcast, because if something goes wrong, like did a few minutes ago, then he'll be here to fix it. Hello, Randy.
Good morning, Doug. How are you?
I am peachy keen and hunky dory. Or is it hunky-dory and peachy keen? I think I'm those two things.
Either way. You know what? Every time that term hunky-dory comes up, I keep saying I'm going to look up the origins of that, and I never seem to get there.
Well, are you going to look up the origins of the phrase, or are you going to look up what a dory is and then assume that hunky means, like attractive and muscular and...
I'm going to look up the phrase to see, because I don't think it's got. I would be willing to bet it has nothing to do with a dory.
Yeah, a dory would be a small boat, as I recall. And,
Yep.
That would be used to travel from a ship to shore, or from one ship to another. I think it's really small, and I have in mind this picture of the Robert Louis Stevenson book, Treasure Island.
Yes.
Where Ben Gunn, a crazy coot, had a round boat, and I picture him paddling only on one side, so he just going around in circles. I don't know if that's accurate, but It's my recollection when that's brought to mind.
We just don't seem to be getting anywhere, people. Why is that?
Yeah, and I'm getting dizzy. I'm going to throw up, and I can't
Yep.
explain that either.
I hear you. Well, I was going to mention to you today, there's something really unusual going on with the temperatures out here in Arizona.
Uh-oh.
It's only 94 degrees again today, which, a lot of people think 94, oh my gosh, that's hot. No, in Arizona, that's just a nice spring day.
Well, we had this conversation a few episodes ago, and then I think you had a hot spell. I mean, a normal
Yeah,
spell, didn't you?
yeah, a normal spell, but now we're back again. It's not cloudy, but there is a bit of haze,
Overcast. Yeah.
overcast a little bit, but it's really a gorgeous day. Absolutely a gorgeous day. This is why we live in Arizona, and if you could get back to Arizona, that would be good.
Well, it would be good. I would certainly enjoy the benign weather that you're having. I have to tell you, though, that my life in Arizona has prepared me for the misery that a summer in Illinois can bring. They're having all kinds of heat warnings, and it's been in the 90s, but that humidity, of course, kicks the apparent feeling of the temperature up over 100. And so they're screaming about, old people are going to die in their beds because they don't have air conditioning and stuff like that. It's a lot of angst and gnashing of teeth and beating of breasts out here.
Oh, I know. I know. But, if you're from the Midwest, okay, yeah, it's uncomfortable. But if you're from the Midwest, obviously you and I both were and are
Yeah.
essentially. I mean, I grew up without air conditioning. I
Yeah.
lived through it. It was 100,000 degrees out, and the humidity was like 204%. Water was dripping off my forehead,
Yes, yes.
and I still lived.
And the cool thing is that salt water dripping into your eyeballs makes you think you're in Florida swimming in the ocean.
Yes, I'm blind. I'm blind. Oh my gosh, yeah, yeah. I hate when you get this big drip going down your forehead and it
Yeah.
hits your eye and it's all salty and you go, oh, that's gonna leave a mark.
Right. Well, back in 1959, we lived in Wayne, Illinois, and my parents said, let's build a house somewhere. Then they went out and found a piece of property, 8 acres with woods. In fact, the second highest point in the backyard, there was a hill. It was the second highest point in our county. And the house was fairly substantial, and it had two furnaces. And each furnace had all the fixings for air conditioning, but they deliberately did not install air conditioning. And I think the reason was that they were afraid we would never go outside and play in the woods if we had air conditioning. And they're probably right. We probably would have stayed.
Well, there is a possibility that it would have turned out that way.
Yeah, so I did spend a large portion of my formative years running around in the woods, and then we got a horse, and I rode the horse around in the woods, and frankly, it was a very nice upbringing to have. The only
Yeah.
problem was as I got into high school and started having opportunities to socialize, it became very difficult to do that because it was like being in juvenile detention, being 5 miles from town. And it was
Was that before or after they quit delivering bread to where you
well,
live?
that's a more recent development. I'm not sure the audience cares whether or not. It turns out Wayne, Illinois, a very high class place. It's a horsey type of country. They ride to the hounds regularly, and the Dunham Woods Riding Club and the Dunham Castle, and everybody's got at least 4 acres, and on and on and on. Wayne is a magnificently beautiful place to live. They don't deliver groceries from the local store in Wayne, Illinois. It's just you've got the Wayne address. You don't get delivery boy, and
So that
the
kind
other-
of slows down the reason. Well, okay. Is that the reason when we first, fired up the podcast to start recording that you had a coonskin cap on? Were you out back looking around for something to eat?
that's just me, playing Davy Crockett.
Oh, okay. All
My
right.
favorite. It was my favorite song when I was a kid. Davy.
Davy Crockett. Oh, yeah, I know. I totally get it.
Now we got to get down to business here, and often I just take over the reins of the podcast from you, and then you get to take a little nap, which is, I'm sure, very enjoyable. But today I've got something different in mind.
Okay. All right.
You might have noticed that I said on the checklist that I sent you, it's usually my notes as to the subjects that I'm going to cover. And today I have special episode. And then following that, it has the words Medicare Buyer Council. And I want to say that there is a collection of people who have been gathered specifically for the purpose of evaluating my work. And I don't know whether the evaluation is going to be positive or negative, but I'm the kind of guy that has the courage of my convictions. And so I was hoping that you would help me determine whether or not the evaluations of the Medicare Buyer Council are accurate or not, or should they be paid attention to or not?
Well,
So
I tell you one thing we need to do is let's go ahead and turn the recorders on. So if we make any money off of it, we'll have evidence of the fact that we were the top of the heap.
well, if there's a way to scam that, that's success every time. I'm trying to turn my timer off. I didn't want my timer to be okay. There we go.
Is that one that needs a battery?
There's one that needs a battery, and then there's another one which also needs a battery. Yeah, and it turns out I've had that same experience with each of them. Thank you for pointing that out to me, sir. So here's the deal. You have a sheet of that I sent you in your email that describes the participants in the Medicare Buyer Council.
I do.
There's a name of each individual and a short description. And I'm going to I'm going to ask you to describe these individuals and then let's help remember, because each of these individuals will express an opinion on a subject that we're going to pick here.
Okay.
And so you've got the short descriptions. Can you read the name of the first person in the Medicare Buyer Council?
I certainly will, but I'm going to start the recorder. Hold on. You want to start the recorders?
Well, I thought the recorders are already going.
No, not yet.
No.
The recorder's going, but I haven't. Okay, let me rephrase that. The recorder's going. I haven't started the timer.
Oh, well, I think you should, because I want this, everything we've talked about up till now should be part of the episode that we release.
Okay, well, it's all recorded. I just haven't turned on the timer
okay.
Because I always try to match your really fancy one with batteries.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're not going to use that today because I don't know how long this is going to take. I don't want to limit. If it turns out well, I want the audience to have the full enjoyment, even if it's hours and hours. If it doesn't turn out well, I don't want any public record of how long it took us to plow through this stupidity.
We'll fade it out very slowly to some sort of an advertisement. But anyway, I'm going to turn on the timer here. Hold on, here we go. And there we go. The timer's going. It doesn't really mean much today because we're just going to keep going until the clock stops. But let's go ahead and do it to it.
All right, very good. If we get up to like 35 minutes or so, let me know because you're watching the timer. So we've got a panel of people that were selected especially for this purpose to evaluate the benefits and illuminate the drawbacks of my book, Medicare for the Lazy Man 2026. Now, each of these people has different characteristics. And so I want to tell you, they were assembled by my neighbor. So I had no idea who these people are. I didn't ask them to participate. I did not choose them. They were chosen for me by a totally unrelated third party, and they have read the book, and they are going to express their varied opinions as to how helpful the book is when it comes to understanding Medicare and making the right choices in Medicare. So there are 5 people, and the first one is Linda Thompson. Would you, Randy, tell me about Linda Thompson and what her characteristics are?
Linda Thompson is identified as the newly eligible planner, 64 years old, turning 65, recently retired or about to, organized and cautious, wants to make the right Medicare choice the first time, and hates feeling embarrassed by what she doesn't know, responds to checklists, plain English explanations, and no pressure guidance. There you
terrific.
have Linda Thompson.
That's right. So I'm sure some segments of the audience can identify with Linda. The next one is Bob Martinez.
Okay, let's talk about Bob for a moment. The fixed income benefit maximizer, 70 years old, retired, living on Social
Oops, maybe
Security.
frozen. I don't.
Every dollar matters, so he's drawn to zero premium plans and extra benefits like dental, vision, and OTC cards. Easily misses the fine print on networks and copays, turned off by anything that feels unaffordable or condescending. There you have Bob Martinez.
Oh boy. Number 3, Patricia Green.
Patricia Green, the chronic care coordinator, 73 years old, managing one or more chronic conditions. Her decisions are driven entirely by whether a plan works with her actual doctors, specialists, and prescriptions. Doesn't care about generic great benefits, messaging, wants proof if it fits her medical reality. There you have Patricia Green.
And we have 2 more left. One is Susan Killer.
Susan is identified as the freedom and flexibility buyer, 68 years old, active retiree who travels or just hates being boxed in by networks, not hunting for the cheapest option, wants control, predictability, and access to any doctor, willing to pay more to avoid surprises later. There you have Susan Keller.
And finally, Angela Reeves, probably the youngest and most unusual member of this group.
Angela Reeves, the caregiver-led decision maker, 52 years old, an adult child, managing Medicare decisions for an aging parent, protective, busy, and skeptical of sales pressure, wants fast, trustworthy, documented answers so she can look out for her parent. And there you have it, Angela Reeves.
All righty. So those are our 5 members of the council, the Medicare Buyer Council that was set up for me by my next door neighbor, Daniel. And Daniel has said, all right, have at it. I'm going to give them the book, let them read the book, and then let them express their opinions. So I had AI draw this up for me and say, all right, what is the average or the overall view of the review process here? And AI said, step 1, the test prompt, testing. An author or insurance agent's positioning book, Medicare for the Lazy Man 2026, used as both an educational guide and a lead generation tool that funnels readers to his insurance practice and podcast. The tone is comedic, opinionated, and irreverent. And then it quotes my saying that roach motels of the Medicare world, that's Medicare Advantage plans. I refer to some other agents as leeches, and I have folksy anecdotes. The core message is skip Medicare Advantage, buy Original Medicare plus a Medicare supplement, specifically high deductible Plan G, and let the author quote and enroll you, and there's no charge for the author's services in doing that. Audience, per the book's own dedication, are people who are not destitute and want fast, simple Medicare decisions. Desired action? Read the book and then contact the author for a free quote or listen to the podcast, which you're doing right now, audience. So every one of the people that we just described to you has expressed an opinion about the book. And I'm going to start with Linda Thompson, who, as Randy told us, is the newly eligible planner. She's a planning type, and she's newly eligible for Medicare. Her first reaction to the Medicare for the Lazy Man 2026 is relief. The 3-step structure: enroll in Parts A and B of Medicare, pick a supplement, and pick a Part D drug plan is exactly the checklist that she's craving. And the 8th edition or 9th edition, plus the review quotes, build real credibility fast. Trust builds around the plain English chapter titles and the fact that the author tells her up front, there's no charge for my advice. Doubt creeps in with the joke density. She wants to feel confident, not entertained. And the lines like shoplift this book or the wife Catholic school joke made her wonder if he's serious enough for something this consequential. She would respond well to the checklist on pages 1 to 8, but she may skim past the jokes to get to what I actually do parts. Likely to fill out the quote form once she is past the introduction chapters. So she's skeptical, apparently, but she's willing to give it a try because she can ignore the jokes and concentrate on the nitty gritty. So I'm hoping that the book will inspire her into further action. In other words, will she take my advice and become my client based on the book that she's been given free of charge to read? The next one, if you'll remember, Bob Martinez, was the fixed income benefit maximizer. Bob tunes out almost immediately. This is not what I was hoping to hear about Bob's reaction to the book. This book explicitly writes him off when it says not destitute. Plan G, or plan high deductible G, premiums of $35 a week, $35 a month to $390 a month, have zero interest, and zero interest in Medicare Advantage, even though it might have a zero premium. That's the whole reason that Bob considers Medicare Advantage in the first place, because he's a cheap bastard, apparently. The book calls Medicare Advantage crapola and roach motels. But for Bob, a zero premium with dental, vision, and over-the-counter benefit cards may be the only version of coverage that he can afford. And this book never engages with that reality except to dismiss it. He would feel talked down to, not persuaded. So he's an unlikely person to respond to the book's appeal. This book is not written for him, and he can tell. So what about the chronic care coordinator, who is Patricia Green? She's taking care of her, I believe. Nope, she's got chronic conditions. So she is a chronic care coordinator. Her ears perk up at the freedom of choice argument. No networks, no referrals, no prior authorizations, because she's lived in the Medicare Advantage prior authorization nightmare that the book describes, especially on page 52. List of Medicare Advantage copays and specialist runaround reads like her own medical history. That section is her strongest trust builder, but she needs the book to go further. It never walks through how a supplement handles her specific drug regimen, or whether Part D formularies favor her chronic meds. She would want a direct conversation, not just the book, before committing, but the book has successfully pre-sold her on avoiding Medicare Advantage. So the next individual to read the book and express an opinion, the freedom and flexibility buyer, and that's Susan Keller. This is her book. The relentless freedom of choice, no network, travel benefit, any doctor, anywhere messaging speaks directly to her core driver. She appreciates that the author isn't selling the cheapest options as the best one, and is transparent about his commission incentives. And I quote myself, "I am also a leech. I love to earn commission dollars." That kind of self-aware honesty actually increases her trust rather than undermining it. The state-by-state rate tables give her the long-term modeling that she wants, most likely persona to convert to a quote request. And finally, Angela Reeves, who is the caregiver-led decision maker. She's the 52-year-old that's trying to pick the right Medicare course of action for her parents. Angela is scanning for whether this is safe to hand to her parent, and she's torn. On one hand, no charge advice, a clear recommendation instead of an overwhelming memo, and a direct contact channel she can use to vet the author herself before her parent gets pulled in. On the other hand, the tone is a real risk for her if her parent has any diminished capacity, or if she's already wary of aggressive charlatans, which the book itself warns about, ironically. The self-described leech cracking jokes about beer funds, and if his advice is sound, his fiscal lust. Beer funds and fiscal lust are two things I referred to. That could read exactly as the kind of salesperson that Angela is trying to avoid, trying to protect her parents from. Even if his advice is sound, she'd likely read the whole thing herself first, strip out her own summary, and only then decide whether to loop her parents in directly with the author. So that's how each of the persons reacts to the book. Sounds like it could be a little shaky for some of them. So look for the 5 personas. Everybody but Bob Martinez, they find real trust value in the freedom of choice, no network argument against Medicare Advantage, and the no charge for advice positioning, lowering the barrier to a first contact. The self-deprecating, I am a leech too, honest about commissions reads as candor, not a red flag, by Linda, Patricia, and Susan. Where the counsel clashes, the humor and irreverence that wins over Susan, mostly, and mostly Linda, is the same thing that makes Angela hesitate and reinforces Bob's sense that this book isn't for him. Patricia needs the book plus a real conversation about her specific drugs, and the book alone doesn't close her. Persona by persona reaction. The newly eligible planner, that's Linda, she warms up once past the jokes, and she converts on the strength of the checklist. The fixed income benefit maximizer, and that is Bob. He warms up. Let's see. The book has already told him he's not the audience. So that's a hit, swing and a miss for Bob. Chronic care coordinator. She's the woman with all the chronic conditions. She's pre-sold on avoiding Medicare Advantage, but she needs a follow-up conversation in order to commit. The freedom and flexibility buyer, strongest convert. This message is built for her. And the caregiver-led decision maker, cautiously interested but wants to vet the author personally before involving her parent. The strongest fit persona is the freedom and flexibility buyer. The weakest persona is the fixed income benefit maximizer. Who is that? That is Bob Martinez. The book excludes him by design, which is a defensible positioning choice, but means any podcast content aimed at growing the audience broadly won't move into this segment. The biggest trust builders, the upfront no charge for advice offer, and the transparent discussion of commission incentives, the no network freedom of choice case against Medicare Advantage, and the real reader testimonials up front. The biggest friction points are the jokes that skew adult or edgy. When I mention beer funds or fiscal lust, and something about the wife. Apparently there's a wife joke in there somewhere. Those land differently depending on who's reading. That's great for Susan, risky for Angela, and anyone reading on behalf of a vulnerable parent. Also dismissing Medicare Advantage wholesale without acknowledging why Bob-type buyers choose it in the first place leaves a real gap in the persuasion for lower-income readers. The recommendation, keep the irreverent voice. This is what AI is telling me as the author to do about the book. Keep the irreverent voice. It's a genuine differentiator, and it's working on your best fit buyers, which are Susan and Linda. But for podcast content specifically, don't try to broaden the humor to win over Bob's segment. Instead, lean harder into the freedom of choice and the self-aware commission honesty angles that are already converting, and consider a distinctive, separate, more restrained segment or episode format aimed at caregivers like Angela. Since she is a gatekeeper, you're currently only half winning. And the final statement is the one thing to do first, record one podcast episode explicitly framed for adult children helping a parent. Same content, dialed back jokes, more written summary, documentation framing to convert Angela from cautiously interested to ready to call. So that's how my book is seen by the 5 people that Randy described on the Medicare Buyer Council. And thank you to Daniel for setting up this council, which is entirely an AI creation, as you might have seen. But yet I think there are some similarities to real life people. And I'll leave it to you, ladies and gentlemen, to find out or to figure out whether AI was accurate in selecting these personality types and how their responses to the book might be. What do you think, Randy? Was this experiment an interesting one, or would you say it was a complete waste of time and we should get rid of this episode completely.
Well, I certainly wouldn't say it's a complete waste of time. In my mind, what it did was absolutely confirm that, at least from my perspective, that the audience that is responding to our targets, or the audience that's responding to our content, is pretty much our target audience.
I agree. I think it's kind of right on the head. We can't be all things to all people without just turning into prostitutes.
Well, the bottom line is that, over the years of running my own business in the same way with you, I figured out that number one mistake that most young business people make is they try to be everything to everybody.
Right.
And ultimately that comes across, most people they understand that's not possible. So
Yeah.
what you do is you narrow down your business, and then you start talking to the people that you really should be talking to. So I found the responses interesting, but they also confirmed that I think we're doing the right thing.
Well, good. I'm glad you agree, because I wasn't disturbed by the fact that some of the people don't respond well to the way I presented the Medicare situation. And I think that's going to be the same in real life. I think this is a fairly accurate depiction of how certain different personality types are going to respond. And
Yeah.
you're right. You're right about a new business owner or somebody starting out in their own enterprise. They have altruistic expectations that don't pan out in reality. And they finally, if they're going to be successful, they learn where to spend their resources on the people that respond best to them, and ignore the people that don't.
And naturally, when you're first starting in your business, you go, "Can you do that?" "Yeah, I can do that. I do that every day. I do that 12 times every day. So what is it you need?"
Yeah. And I do it better than anybody else does, and I'll do it for you the rest of your life. But as it turns out, there are a lot of things that just they can't deliver very well for some demands, and they don't want to deliver for other demands. I've had some people that I've had to tell to I've said to a couple of different people, I think we're going to be happier if you go find another agent somewhere. Because they're not happy with me and I'm not happy with them. It's only been a couple of people, but they've been memorable.
Yeah. I also years ago had a business coach, and she always used to say, "You cannot cost cut yourself into profitability."
Wow, that is a statement that.
So you have to understand what your value is, hold your value, and not be afraid to ask for your value.
Yep, I think those are wise words. Wise words. I hope you paid that business coach a ton of money.
I did.
Did you cost cut yourself right out of the business coach?
No, I didn't. I had the business coach we had her for 2 years, I guess, and she did a wonderful amount of work with us. But believe me, Doug, it was not inexpensive.
Yeah, see, that's why I've never had a business coach. I figure, what's a business coach going to tell me? Get up earlier, work harder, don't goof around so much.
Find out who your target customer is.
That's right. And approach those people in the way they like to be approached.
Yeah. So, well, that's the other thing she used to say. Find out what they want and sell it to them.
Well, there you go. I don't think you need to be paying a lot of money for that advice when you are experienced, because it kind of comes naturally.
Yeah, it really does. So anyway, that was my experience, and I thought it was a great exercise. We might want to do that, again in the future.
All right. Well, let's consider doing that again. What does your timer say? How much time did we blow? How much of everybody's lives did we waste?
We are out of time.
Okay. All right. Very good. Well, let's consider repeating this exercise, perhaps on a different book.
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree. So anyway, should I go ahead and close up shop?
If you don't, who will?
Who will? I will take care of that for us, Doug.
Thank you.
Everybody grab their pencil. Here you go. Write this email address down. It's probably the most important bit of information you will get today. dbj@mlmmailbag.com. dbj@mlmmailbag.com. That's where you can reach out to Doug and ask him a question any time of the day or night. Doug is licensed nationwide, every state of the union. He can help you with your Medicare supplement planning, otherwise known as Medigap. MedicareForTheLazyMan.com. That's the website. That's kind of like the mothership of our life. That's where everything can be found, and there's a lot of cool stuff going on there, if I do say so myself. Stop by Amazon.com. We would appreciate leaving some reviews on the content and the books that Doug writes. And oddly enough, guess what we use with those? We try our darndest to stay ahead of the travelogue people.
Yeah, those damn people.
Of all the things that we have to stay away from, and someday I'll ask Doug to explain why that is, but it's absolutely true. Travelogue people are our arch enemies. Subscribe to the podcast. That way you'll know when it's dropping, and you can sit right in front of your tube and wait till it hits, and you will see it fresh off the really just fresh off the wire, just news, fresh, so fresh that it might even be green. I don't know. I'm not sure. But last but certainly not least, thank you. We appreciate each and every one of you for joining us on these days. We love to have you with Medicare for the Lazy Man podcast. That's exactly where we want to have you. And you spent about 32 and a half minutes with Doug Jones, the anti-insurance guy, originally from Oklahoma. No more. He's living up in the high ground most of the time behind Cave Creek, Arizona, in the Nosebleed Mountains, home of the Nosebleed Indians. But right now he's living out in Illinois, out in the low ground, just about as low as you can go. How low is it out there,
It's
Doug?
pretty darn low. It's 700 and some feet, I think. Maybe 685 to 720. Hard to say for sure. But I'll tell you, I hope my buddies, the Nosebleed Indians, haven't drank all my beer.
I know.
Get in my garage. I'm pretty sure they're, whooping it up on the in the Nosebleed Mountains. But let me say that I am so pleased that you came and joined us today for this episode, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm sure hoping that you come back and enjoy the next episode that we're going to record, which will be not too far in the future. I'm looking forward to seeing your smiling faces in our audience again. And until then, bye-bye.